Hello, Greater New Jersey. My name's Karen Manczko, and I have worked closely with the United Methodist Stewardship Foundation since they first started talking to Wespath nearly 3 years ago. But before I start with my presentation, I want to talk a little bit about Wespath Investment Management. Wespath Investment Management is the investments division of the general agency, Wespath Benefits and Investments. We were founded in 1908 to provide financial security for United Methodist lay and clergy. We are recognized as the largest known faith-based reporting investor of plan assets with nearly $22 billion in assets under management. We offer a global, diversified, multi-manager approach that provides our clients access to 35 different investment managers across 50 unique investment styles. We are also widely recognized as a leader in sustainable investing. And last, we have a team of 20 investment professionals that oversee the day-to-day activities of our investment funds, who make sure that our investments are aligned with the social principles of the United Methodist Church, and who service our 117 United Methodist associated clients. Looking at our investment program has guidance by the Book of Discipline for how to implement sustainable investing. The Book of Discipline directs us to discharge our fiduciary duty solely in the interest of our participants, beneficiaries, with care, skill, prudence, and diligence. It also directs us to make a conscious effort to invest with the goals outlined in the social principles. Our actions at Wespath are a blend of these two directives. We are a fiduciary, and we focused on the intersection of fiduciary duty and where we reflect the values of the United Methodist Church. But we talk about being a sustainable investor, and this is what it means. To meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability for future generations to meet their own needs. We believe that focus on sustainability in our investment process adds value to our investment program because it's not all about what we exclude, but it's about being a long-term investor and our need to balance long-term need and shifts in the economy. Sustainability to us means thinking about financial sustainability, economic sustainability, environmental sustainability, and social sustainability. This is important to us because we are a fiduciary. To set the stage, I like to talk about 5 mega trends. The world is making dramatic shifts, and we at Wespath are analyzing those shifts. We need to think about long-term factors that are impacting our world. And I'm going to run through each of these shifts individually. Shift 1, demographics. The world is growing faster than it ever has before. There is currently 7.3 billion people on this planet, and it is projected that the population will grow to 11.2 billion people by 2100. How are we all going to live together? The next shift, change in economic power. Population growth is happening, which is shifting consumer and economic power, which brings risk. This underlying growth is coming from the less developed countries, such as India, Indonesia, and China. Looking at this chart, there are more people living inside this circle than outside of it. Which brings me to the next shift, accelerating urbanization. The bulk of the world will be living in cities. 1.5 million people are added to the global urban population every year. By 2050, 2/3 of the population will be urban. What does this mean for transportation? What does this mean for housing? What does this mean for water? What does it mean for the resources that we depend on? Which brings me to the next shift, resource scarcity. Just to provide a couple statistics, this shows the increase in food, water, and energy that will be required by 2030. And we at Wespath recognize that many of you in the audience may have personal views about climate change. However, as an investor, we see clear evidence of a transition to a low-carbon economy is underway as the world shifts to new and cleaner energy sources. The world's governments have committed that to stay within 2 degrees Celsius, the world needs to cut carbon intensity by 6.5% every year by 2100. So this is the position we are in as an investor. There are opportunities to support and provide capital to companies that will help provide solutions to this problem. There have been tremendous amount of advancements in technology, and these advancements are now happening much more quickly. Looking at this chart, you can see it took 180 years for steamships and motor ships to be more widely adopted in the 1800s. Looking today, you can see it took only 5 years for cell phones and the internet to be more widely adopted. The pace of change is something we need to be aware of, and it may surprise all of us as this chart demonstrates. So let me turn away from the backdrop, as I just described, and think more specifically about how we at Wespath are trying to position our investments for the long term. The framework that we use to help guide us when thinking about sustainability is avoid, engage, and invest. The vast majority of the avoid part are companies that we avoid investing in which we are directed by the Book of Discipline. But if we are going to be a smart investor and understand these trends and how they impact us and our investments, we engage companies that we invest in regarding their business practices. And last, we invest. And this is by deploying capital that will help us respond to our ever-changing world. So moving on and focusing on how we engage companies. So we use our seat at the table to encourage companies that we invest in regarding sustainable business practices. And proxy voting is one of the mechanisms for having a seat at the table. When you own shares of a publicly traded company, they have what's called an annual general meeting, in which they cast votes on a variety of topics. This is a way for shareholders to participate without having to attend the meeting. At Wespath, we vote approximately 5,000 proxies every year. Oftentimes, people will view proxy voting as voting in line with management. We view it as really thinking through the best way for a company to create the best long-term value. If you look at the pie chart, we voted against management 19% of the time last year. And areas that we'll vote against would be if a company's board isn't independent, if they don't have board diversity, and if they have a poor audit, just as examples. Areas that we voted, particularly in regards to compensation-related votes, we voted 29% of the time against management. And that could be in regards to poor pay for performance, or if they weren't disclosing information. One of the companies that we voted against the executive compensation was Wells Fargo. So we saw some things that concerned us as a shareholder in regards to the incentives that they had for their sales staff, which in turn hurt their clients. So we voted against their corporate compensation packages before the news broke out regarding this. Mylan was another company that we voted against the executive compensation, as the chief executive officer's compensation was linked to product pricing. As we witnessed, the life-saving drug, the EpiPen, saw a 500% increase in price. And along with that came a significant salary increase for their chief executive officer. We voted against this compensation package before the news broke out regarding this. But another way for engaging a company directly is by having ongoing meetings and discussions with them. We do this ourselves, but we also like to partner with like-minded investors to increase our voice with these companies. I'll give you specific examples where we've encouraged companies regarding sustainable business practices that we believe also promoted long-term financial values. The first box shows companies that were in the news regarding abusive working conditions in their factories. The emergence of the idea that you can outsource your operations, but you can't outsource your operation or your human rights responsibilities came from this. After engaging Nike, McDonald's Company, and the Walt Disney regarding developing a supplier code of conduct which would monitor their overseas factories, particularly in regards to fair labor practices. The next box shows a corporate engagement success story in which we worked with a large chocolate company, or a well-known chocolate company, particularly in this part of the United States. And as I mentioned, we like to partner with like-minded investors. On this engagement, we partnered with another United Methodist organization, United Methodist Women, in working with Hershey regarding child labor. So initially, we engaged Hershey Company regarding combating child labor in West Africa, which supplies 70% of the world's cocoa. Our discussions with Hershey revealed that there were other sustainable issues that needed addressing. So we used our seat at the table to encourage Hershey to commit to fair trade cocoa. And the reason fair trade cocoa is important is because it provides a living wage for the farmers. It teaches them better farming techniques where they can yield a better crop, which in turn would keep the children in school, as well as it connects the farmers with the consumers, which takes out that middleman, which took a lot of the profits for the farmers. So we used our seat at the table and got Hershey to launch one line of their chocolate that would be 100% fair trade, which was Bliss. So they offered this one line of chocolate to see what kind of response they would get from it. Well, the response was so positive that they have committed by 2020, 100% of their cocoa will be fair trade. And what people don't know is that it took two United Methodist organizations pressuring a company regarding their business practices to create change. The last two stories I'll share is Walmart. We believe what gets measured gets monitored. And so we were encouraging Walmart to publish a sustainability report, because information that is disclosed in a sustainability report is not always disclosed in their annual report, such as environmental impact, labor and human rights issues, and corporate governance practices. So in 2017, Walmart published their first sustainability report. And the last story I'll share with you is in regards to a pharmaceutical company, Bristol Myers Squibb. We were urging Bristol Myers Squibb to release a patent on an HIV/AIDS drug called atazanavir to the medicines patent pool. And the reason that we are pressuring them to release this patent is because this drug would be made available to 110 additional countries, reaching 88% of the population of individuals suffering with HIV/AIDS. After 3 years of engagement, they released this patent to the medicines patent pool. And the reason we were so focused on this particular drug, atazanavir, is because it was proven safe for children. It was heat resistant, so in areas of the world where refrigeration was not an option, this drug would be sustainable, as well as it's a third-line HIV/AIDS drug. So when the first line does not work, this is another option for those individuals suffering with HIV/AIDS. Another notable engagement success story, which just happened last week, so unfortunately it didn't make it to this presentation, but I wanted to share it, was regarding an ongoing engagement that we had with Occidental Petroleum, which is an oil and gas company located in Houston, Texas. We filed a shareholder resolution asking them for additional disclosure regarding how Occidental will be impacted with an energy transition to a low-carbon economy. This resolution received 67% support at Occidental shareholders meeting. This is the first time an environmental resolution has ever passed at an oil and gas company in the US, and we are pleased to have led on this historic initiative. And the third and final framework is invest. And we invest by deploying our capital to create positive change, but also to provide a competitive risk-adjusted rate of return. We believe that where there's risk, there's opportunity. We recently invested in 3 new thematic mandates in our portfolio that focus on low-carbon energy solutions. What is exciting about low carbon is that if the world is moving towards this direction of resource scarcity, then there are companies that can help. And if we find those companies and invest in them, our portfolio will benefit over the long term. Another way that we invest is through our positive social purpose lending program. This is an internally managed program that provides affordable housing and community development in disadvantaged areas. Since this program's inception, it's helped fund the construction, the rehabilitation, and preservation of over 51,000 affordable housing units. It's supported more than 65,000 local jobs and invested more than $83 million in loans to entrepreneurs in the emerging markets who have little to no access to traditional financing. We currently have over $20 million invested in New Jersey properties. And what's interesting about our positive social purpose lending program is that it was started by a board member of our general agency who was a member of the Greater New Jersey Annual Conference. He came up with this idea of investing in these properties that would not only benefit society, but also provide a competitive risk-adjusted rate of return. And historically, this has been one of the best performing mandates within our fixed income fund. And before I turn it back over to Sue, we recently published our 2015-2016 Sustainable Investment Report, which you can find a copy of this at the Stewardship Foundation's booth, which is right outside Meeting Room 1. This concludes my prepared portion. Thank you so much for inviting me here today. Please don't hesitate to stop by. If you have any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.
Before you go away. Yep. We really put Karen on a tight leash because we didn't know we didn't have enough time. Tell them about the women-owned investment firms that we invest in.
So we invest in roughly 2 women investment firms. One is a women-owned minority investment firm located in New York. We've been invested with this firm since 1994. And since inception, they have returned over 4.5% in our portfolio. We also invest in another women-owned investment firm that's located in Seattle, Washington. And this investment firm has also returned roughly 4.5% since the initial investment in 1994 as well.
Tell them also about the new firm that we're investing in that only invests in Africa.
I believe that was on slide.
But just tell them about it.
Okay. We recently made an investment, which is one of our new thematic mandates that we invested in, as I mentioned, with low carbon energy solutions. And this is through a program called Developing World Markets. There are currently 2 billion people living without access to electricity. So we made an investment, a $30 million investment in this firm that helps provide solar lanterns to individuals that do not have access to electricity.
And how's the returns on that doing?
So far, so good.
Actually, very good. The last time I talked to you, they were very good returns. And also talk about minority-owned firms that we're investing through.
Bishop's really put me on the spot here. We've been invested with a minority-owned investment firm that's located in Baltimore. And we've been invested with this firm since, I believe, early 1990s. And we invest in their small cap strategy. And this firm is interesting because they got in on investments like Panera Bread and Keurig when it was just, a product that wasn't as well known. And since we've been invested with this manager, they have returned year over year over 7.5% over their benchmark.
And you also talked about you talked about investing here in New Jersey, and one of the places is in Newark, where you've invested in a school.
Yeah, we invested in, it's called North Star, and it is a charter school. And in this particular charter school is where we receive support from the local school district because there was a need based on area median income as well as the free lunch program. And this particular charter school has received quite a few awards regarding the programs as well as the graduation rate that it has received. So it's one of our more notable investments that we've made.
All right, Sue? Thank you, Karen.
Great. Thank you so much, Karen. I hope you now understand why we are so excited and enthusiastic about Wespath and the investments they make on our behalf. While I said at the beginning I was not going to bore you with asset allocation or investment returns, as a financial geek, I feel compelled and obligated to give you a brief explanation of the Foundation's default investment choice. This pie chart depicts Wespath's multiple asset fund, which is a balanced or blended fund, similar to Fidelity's balanced fund or Vanguard's Wellington fund. You get the benefit, as Karen mentioned, of over 50 different investment managers or styles, which leads to a very diversified portfolio. On the next slide, the blue line illustrates the net of fee performance of MAF, what we call MAF, the multiple asset fund, since July 2002, with the black line being the benchmark. I hope you see that MAF tracks very nicely against this benchmark. And by the way, that blue line, that is net of fees. So just in case you have that question. Thank you all for your time and attention. Karen and I will be at the Foundation table the rest of today, and I will be there through the end of the conference tomorrow to answer any questions. While I know most of you are not the investment or financial decision makers of your church, I ask that you pick up our material and take it back to your congregation and share it with those that are. So we may start the conversation with them. Thank you again for your time.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Sue, for your work and helping the Foundation to move forward. I want to throw that chart back up there that we just saw, that graph, to make sure everybody understands that. Can we throw the graph back up? Ooh, look at that bald head. Okay, yeah, that one there, okay. So we're the blue line. You see where we're tracking. When she says net of fees, that means that Wespath's fees are already baked into that. The fees are included in that blue line. All the other lines don't have the fees included. So that's how well Wespath is doing. That's how well their investments are doing. When we show this to churches and some of your finance people, your investment people, they say, no, that can't be true. You can't be doing that well. Yes, we are doing that well. Not just on the investments, we're changing how companies do business. We help to change Hershey. We help to invest in Africa and all of these other places around the world. Now, you have $200 million sitting in reserve accounts in your congregations. Over $200 million. Think about what that would do invested through our United Methodist Foundation and the kind of returns and the kind of impact you would be having in the world. So I want you to go home and talk to your investment people, because several things happen. Not only do all those things happen that you just heard about, you're also helping clergy and lay pensions. Think about this. This is all these bonuses. Clergy and lay pensions, socially responsible investments, investments that are happening here in New Jersey, and fourthly, by investing through the foundation, we continue to strengthen Greater New Jersey and our work in stewardship. It's a win-win-win for you, for the clergy, for the conference. It's just a win all the way around. And so I want more and more of you to begin to ask this question. I serve on several boards, education boards here in Greater New Jersey, And I continue to ask every time the investment companies come to tell them how their endowments are doing, tell me about your socially responsible investing. And I'll never forget, this one investor said, huh, you don't make money doing that. And I said, let me show you, and let's talk to you. So now that school has said that they would like Karen to come and talk, and they got quite a bit of money sitting in their endowment to talk about the possibility of working through the United Methodist Foundation to help that to happen. So I want all of you to go back to your congregations and talk with your finance people, talk with your trustees who oversee any endowments and funding that you have, and begin to ask them about looking at a presentation like this and what that can do. First and foremost for me, it's godly investing. And I think that is what is most critical for us. Where are our dollars going, and how is it furthering the reign of God here? Amen? All right, good. So next year when we come back, we're going to even have more good things to report about what our United Methodist Foundation is doing.